Good morning and welcome back to the 6th Annual Technical Teachers Conference. It's day 2 and I hope you enjoyed the various speakers that provided some insightful information that we had yesterday. Remember that we are still looking at the polls and reading your questions, so please continue to be interactive with us on the app. At the end of the conference today, a lucky winner will walk away with a tablet. It could be you, and all you have to do is visit the various exhibitors and be as interactive as possible. Our first speaker for today will give us an in-depth view of the 4th Industrial Revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Dr. Patricia Goos from UNISA, who will be joining via video.
Welcome everybody, good day, and welcome to this presentation at the Sasol Explore, Create and Innovate for the annual Technical Teachers Conference. My name is Dr. Patricia Goos, and I will be talking to you about 4IR, robotics and coding, and the urgency that lies ahead. Thank you very much. Shall we start the presentation? So, I am from the College of Science, Engineering and Technology at UNISA, and the topic of our conversation today is robotics, coding, and 4IR as a journey of exploring, creating, and innovating. And we will address the 3 questions, the why, the how, and then and then. So by way of introduction, I lecture programming in the School of Computing in UNISA, which is an online and distance university. I also lead the Inspire Towards Science, Engineering and Technology robotics program, which we started in 2009. This is in the meantime gained accreditation from the Department of Science and Innovation as a National Science Center in 2021. The UNISA Science Engagement Center is situated on the Florida campus, the Science Campus, and the vision is for the advancement of robotics education through science engagement. So let's just start this with a Sasol moment. So this is greetings from Sasol Mobile Unit number 9. She has been with us since 2018, and it almost feels like we are starting the journey again. Because for all the COVID months, we were locked up and we couldn't move, and now we are going to start moving again. This ISET mobile unit is very much an integral part of the UNISA Science Engagement Center. So we were, from 2009, the ISET Robotics project has been presenting expos and workshops and also hosting robotics competitions. And through the years, our lessons learned have led us to the development of short learning programs, which is hosted at the UNISA Lifelong Learning Center. And we also have then joined the massive open online courses on the UNISA MOOC portal, and we have a number of MOOCs available there. So from 2020, when the COVID started, we have been exploring live online learning towards a community of practice. And so this is in response to addressing the pipeline for 4IR skilled, competent, and confident citizens, currently our learners. But this requires equipping of our 4IR skilled, competent, and confident educators. And so we will be looking at that pipeline for both the learners, who are our citizens of the future, and also the educators that are going to mentor them. All right, so there are 4 parts in this journey that we're going to discuss today. I'll give a brief overview of the 4IR robotics and coding concepts, and then we will consider the why and the how, and then we will explore the way forward. So just as a disclaimer before we kind of jump into it, is that we're not waiting for the 4IR era, we're kind of in the 4IR era, all right? And our learners of today do not have defined job titles for their future. But what we do know is that our learners of today need to develop these 21st century skills. And that includes problem solving, critical thinking, innovation, creativity, lots of imagination, definitely collaboration and teamwork, because they need the skills to thrive beyond, well, in this 4IR era, but beyond that, whatever comes after 4IR, they need to be able to thrive in that era. And it's interesting to read or to look at the change that is happening. And I'll give you some examples. For example, doctors are operating remotely, mechanics are using computers, and the telephone with the landline is now the cell phone, and the cell phone is now the camera, and the GPS, and the bank, and my home security. Should we carry on? And that is just how things have changed in our lifetime, and we need to equip our learners then to thrive in the era that lies ahead. And everybody needs 21st century skills to thrive, whatever lies ahead. So what is the 4IR? And it's just interesting to note that it was only defined in 2016, which was kind of when the annual Technical Teachers Conference started by Sasol. So it's they're running together. So it just gives you an idea of the timeframes. But it's definitely an era because it's a time, and it's the fourth. So if it's the fourth, then there must be a fifth, and there was a third. So we're only in this time, and we're going to move on. In terms of a revolution, it's definitely revolutionary because it's disruptive. It's changing the way we do things, and it's inevitable because the digital technologies from the third digital revolution, that followed, and then came the fourth 4IR era, and then we were driven by the integration of everything. And so the fifth revolution is on its way. Okay, so just diagrammatically, if you look, we have the Industrial Revolution, when we started with the steam, and then there was that mass production. And so it's moving on and moving on. And if you look at the diagram on the screen, you'll see there's an arrow going forward. And so we are definitely, there's something to come after that. But we need to equip our learners for what lies ahead. All right. So although we know what the fourth industrial revolution is and where we are, what is really important is how we respond to it. All right. So we cannot ignore it. We're in it. But there needs to be a response from all stakeholders, whether in this country or globally. But there does need to be a response. We cannot sit back and wait for the fourth industrial revolution or the 4IR era to pass by, and then we'll catch up because we're going to miss the train. And then it's really an interesting topic if you want to read what it means and how to respond then to the fourth industrial revolution. So there are many definitions out there of what the fourth industrial revolution is, and it's a current and developing environment which is disruptive for sure, but it's the changes that we are experiencing daily. And we use that to survive and live and work. And hopefully we're now going to have the skills then to thrive going forward. And so you've heard maybe some of these abbreviations, like the Internet of Things is the IoT. The robotics and coding has definitely been around quite often. We have noticed that. And then there's the virtual reality, which is VR. So this is definitely an era for abbreviations. But nonetheless, despite the abbreviations, you do need to know what it means and what impact it has going forward. So here's, by example, the virtual reality. You've got a computer-generated environment, and you have scenes and objects, and it appears to be real, but it's not, because actually you as the user are really immersed in your environment and your surroundings, and then all the environmental sensors then are perceived through that headset that is in front of your eyes. And so it's not real, but it gives you an experience of a reality. All right. So similarly, artificial intelligence is definitely artificial. It's really not human intelligence because there are no emotions linked to that. And it's simulated because you are using data to simulate human intelligence. All right. And it's usually on a computer. And so they have natural language processing and speech recognition and vision. And if anybody has met Sophia, you will definitely need to keep your brain clear that she's not real. And only when you remove her wig and you look at the wiring inside her, you will definitely realize she's not human, but she comes forward as human. And so she reacts as a human without the emotional part to that. All right. So now we come to robotics and the robot. And if you Google, to see what is meant by robotics and the robot, there are many images. And I think in that it's confusing because there's no one look or feel, and there's no one look or feel size. But robots are all around us in different forms. And so because you don't know what the definition is, or you don't know what it looks like, that adds to the complexity of this whole concept. All right. So here's, by definition, robotics. Robotics is actually the integration of the engineering fundamentals and the programming principles. And so you put them together, and what happens in between is then your 21st century skills that you develop. So you need to problem solve, you need to create, you need to innovate, you need to explore, definitely critically thinking, and you need to do teamwork. You can't do this solo. And then just to add a couple more, some acronyms in the engineering, graphics, and design. You actually need to design your robot. That's part of the problem-solving process. And so there's graphics, and then there's the design process. And the design process is usually iterative, and the graphics gives you sketches beforehand of conceptualizing before you actually build the robot. And what's come out now is that we need to consider the ethics of robotics and the economics of robotics and the ergonomics of robotics. So it really, as a field, it's ever expanding and ever increasing. But at the very core, it's the robotics of the engineering and the programming, and then applicable. So it's usually applied to a knowledge domain. For example, the robotics in agriculture, and the robots in medicine, and robots in manufacturing. So each time there is an application of the robotics. So it's not just engineering and programming, but it's actually applicable to something going forward. All right. And so really the question is, okay, so where do we start? Where do we start learning about robotics, and how can we then engage with our learners? Remember, we have got this pipeline, and as much as you want to start as a teacher in the school, we would like them at the university. And so there's this, when do we actually start? Remembering that programming is definitely abstract. So you'll need to make it more concrete. All right. So we teach programming, we teach the programming principles, the linear, the decisions, and the looping. We teach them that, but we teach them that it becomes just a little bit more concrete, that they can understand the concepts. All right. And then we explore the engineering fundamentals. And then the engineering is also bits and pieces that you put together, but you do need to keep it practical and relevant for the learners and the students going forward, so that they actually understand the concepts, and not, we want to not add the level of complexity. We need the learners to engage as soon as possible, because we're equipping them for the era and the thriving in the next generation. All right. So this is just a short pause to say, what is the landscape of robotics and coding in South Africa from a learner perspective? For you, you're the teachers. And so let's just unpack where we are as South Africa. All right. So we're all aware of the Department of Basic Education. They have introduced the coding and robotics as a subject. We're aware of the curriculum that is piloted for grade R to grade 3. And we are aware that it's teacher training that is available on the UNISA MOOC portal. That is, that training is 24/7. It's available. It's 0 rated, and all teachers can then access the MOOC portal, and all teachers can then complete those 2 MOOCs. All right. Linked to that, but on a different side of the coin, is the Department of Science and Innovation, and they have mandated the South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement, SASTA, who then hosts STEMI, and those are the Olympiads and competitions, and they've been doing that for more than 50 years. So that includes all your astro quizzes, your maths quizzes, your general knowledge quizzes. So everything there is bundled together. What is happening now is that the STEMI members are then dividing into 4 clusters, and one of those clusters is specifically for robotics and coding, for the advancement of robotics and coding competitions in the country. And so your learners, on the one hand, have got the DBE training, and on the other hand, they've got competitions as a practical way of applying the knowledge that they're learning. Okay, so this is just a diagram to show you. On the one hand, we've got the Department of Basic Education. They've got the curriculum, and they've got the training, which is available on the MOOC portal. And on the other hand, we've got SASTA under STEMI, under DSI, and those are the robotics competitions that are currently running in the country for learners of different age groups. But we go up from grade R to grade 12 and beyond. And the option is also to ensure that our learners have a play it forward approach, so that when your learners age out of a robotics competition, they then come back and mentor the younger learners. And so we have a pass it on in terms of knowledge and skills, and mentoring and role models for the future. Okay, and then the UNISA Science Engagement Center sits here, and within the community of practice, we then equip coaches and mentors to then train teams for competitions on the one hand, and we also host the DBE MOOCs as well. And so we have the live online learning program, we have short learning programs, and then we also have the MOOCs available for educators. All right, so the rise of 4IR in robotics then sends a message to say we are challenging our system of education, because we do need to create and promote accessible robotics teaching and learning for and as well the resources and opportunities for our educators. Okay, because to ensure that we have competent and confident skilled learners, we do need to ensure that we have inspired and supported competent and confident and skilled educators, because it's the teachers or the educators that are in the classes with our learners. All right, so here's the why. The why are we going to bother doing this? And the why is, well, there's an urgency. There's a real urgency about this, because we do need to equip our learners to thrive. All right, and again, the competent and confident learners of the country that we have in our schools, the country definitely needs competent and confident educators. All right, and it's about skills, but it's also about knowledge. So it's not rote, it's not textbook, it's skills, and skills require development, and development requires time. All right, also remembering that our learners are now, who are in school, they need to consider the jobs they're going to do and that will exist in the future, and we need to equip them to do those jobs. Robots are not going to take over, all right, but the fourth industrial revolution and disruptive technologies are definitely going to automate a whole lot of jobs. All right, so that we can, the mundane, we're going to automate, and then we're going to find new jobs. There are going to be new jobs and new careers definitely opening up. And so if you look in the literature, there's definitely examples of how the robotics and the coding is being applied to our known world. Okay, so there's robotics and automation in the city, and so there's a whole research agenda, and that is all under urban geography. So geography then takes another spin to say, what is robotics and geography? And then there's the fourth industrial revolution in agriculture, and so how does the use of robots in agriculture enhance food production? All right, there's an interesting article on the education as well. And if anybody's interested, we've also got a robotics and environmental sciences MOOC that we've just piloted. And if you're welcome to go and have a look on our MOOC portal and maybe give us feedback on that, if that is something you can use. All right. So the why is we need to embrace the learning opportunities, and we need to make it like lifelong learning, because we need to carry it over. We need to mentor and coach our citizens of the future. There needs to be a play it forward mentoring model. If we're going to sit back, remember I said it's about a response. If we're going to sit back and say, okay, let's see what happens, that's a zero response. And then nothing. All right. We definitely need a play it forward mentoring model to ensure that all that will thrive beyond the 4IR era that we are currently in. All right. So next part is then, okay, so how do we go about this this 4IR robotics and coding journey? How do we go about it? So I put it in the heading because it really is important. Number one, you've got to use and share resources. And number two, you need to participate and engage in a community of practice. All right. So you as educators, you're never alone. You cannot be all alone at a school and think you're the only educator that's got to teach the kids robotics and coding. That's not true. It's all about a community. there are many opportunities to collaborate within the community. There are several learning opportunities, and the Sasol conference is one of them. These are definitely opportunities to share, to learn, to network. You need to explore and create online teaching and learning of robotics and coding. I am very aware that maybe maybe some of the stuff is not applicable, but there's definitely of the resources that you can use and then create. And if you want to create, modify it and use it in your teaching and adapt it to your teaching and your situation. And if you do that, we'd love to hear from you, as this part of this community of practice is sharing ideas, sharing lessons learned. And just as an aside, one of the biggest things that we need to address is that robotics and coding and fourth industrial revolution and 21st century skills need to be made available for all learners. And so the whole thing of access and ability, and that all needs to be addressed, and that's all part of the movement and the journey going forward. All right. So there is a really cool article called Accessible Educational Resources for Teaching and Learning of Robotics. It was written in 2021, and they give us 3 categories of resources. Okay. And so the first category of resources online is the sequential access. So it's like the MOOCs or some lectures. There are a plethora of resources available, and we're happy to share that and discuss that with you. Some maybe pitched at a different level, but certainly worthy of investigations. Okay, so the next category number 2, these randomly accessed resources, and there are YouTube videos, and there are podcasts, and there are TED Talks. And TED Talks you can listen to over and over and over again, but just to hear different people's perspectives on this robotics, coding, and 4IR as we go forward. Okay, so that is a once-off. And again, if you find something that you can identify with, share it then with everybody and share it within the community. The third category is more the hands-on learning. And so whilst it would be really great, every learner has a robotics kit, or every team of learners has a robotics kit, we are still working on that one. But there are also virtual practical options available, and there are many free options available. I'll give you 2 examples. The one is the virtual robotics toolkit at the bottom there, and the other one is the GearsBot. The robot doesn't look so cool, but you know what? You can program in Python, you can program in Scratch. You have a little robot. Every learner has a robot, and so you are then developing knowledge and skills with the online simulation. Okay, so now the problem is that there's a large volume of resources. I get that, and it's really overwhelming. And that is why you need to collaborate and engage within an online community and share and say these, then you give your own, which works, which doesn't work, which resources are helpful, and which maybe are not so helpful. All right. So, and the online community, a community of practice, especially for now for robotics, which is online, we have online meetings, and then we can request and discuss topics of interest, which may change depending on which classes or which learners you're teaching. But the important thing is to create and to share lessons learned, and to share resources. And then you start collaborating in innovative ways. I know the online community of practice has already started creating little hubs of excellence all over the country in terms of robotics. All right. So I'm just going to give you some examples of what is available. There is the UNISA MOOC portal. It's available 24/7. It's 0 rated. You can create your own account. There are cyber MOOCs. There's robotics MOOCs. On the DBE MOOCs, there are lesson plans that you can download. There are activities that you can download. And any material that you find or you would like to share or contribute to these portals, that'll be awesome. All right. I think most teachers are aware of Scratch and Scratch Junior. That's downloadable. That's free. If you're going to do Python, the Anaconda environment is definitely a good learning environment for Python. It avoids all the technical installations of Python, and Anaconda is a good learning experience. All right, that what I was talking about, GearsBot and Virtual Robotics Toolkit, there are trial period options, so you can use that as well. And then for design, there's the Tinkercad software. For tutorial sites, there's Build a Dude 35, and there's Prime Lessons. There's a really great website called What is a Robot and Your Guide to Robotics, and they're busy uploading lessons and teacher training material. And then in South Africa, we're very aware that we have our 11 own languages. So if you go and look on the OER site for UNISA, there are Learn to Speak Robotics Indigenously, and we have 60 robotics words, which we've translated into 5 languages. And so it's a start. We don't have everything, but we have certainly started something. All right. And your feedback is great. Will be appreciated. All right. All right. So now what is the way forward? So the way forward is, so let's just consider this. The learners need mentors and coaches, okay, because we now need to invest in their future. And just as a number, of all the robotics teams in the world, only 1% is from the African continent. And for me, that's not okay. That is not okay. When I started with these robotics, these grade 8s were probably starting school, but our grade 8s of 2022 are 2030 graduates. They are the sciences, the robotics, the data sciences, the mathematics of our future. So it now becomes urgent, and all learners should really be digitally literate. It's not acceptable that learners get a matric certificate, but they're not digitally literate. And that's also not okay for me. That we can do something about it. I'm sure we can do something about it. All right. In terms of students, well, you see the students, very few of them have had exposure to robotics and coding, because very few schools actually teach programming as a subject. And then the ongoing problem of too few students in the difficult sciences, the computer science, the engineering, the maths. And then so we need to increase the students, but we also need to increase the opportunities for our students in formal qualifications. And so the question is, so where are our students going to come from? So they're going to come from the schools, and if they're equipped in the schools, then it just makes it that much easier in higher education. All right. So we're back to your response. What is your response? Well, you can either decide not doing anything, or you can just jump in and say, I'll do everything, but you're probably going to burn out. So I think the answer is just start. Okay. So you should have at least a 3-year plan, and not you singly, your school. Okay. Give it a draft 3-year plan. Drafts change, but as long as you have a draft plan. Okay, which grades are you going to target? How many learners? Are you going to do it after school or in school? Are you going to do it for 2 hours or 3 hours in their curriculum? What is the budget? So, and just start. All right, have realistic goals, review them regularly, say this is not working, be honest, be graciously honest, and say we need to take a step back. But you should have robotics and coding team of educators work together. We need the mentors, we need the administration, we need the coaches, we need a whole lot of people as part of this team to make this happen. Many robotics competitions have got research included, so you'll need a couple of research educators, but you need to have a team approach to ensure that as many learners as possible are given this opportunity. And I really do think you should have a school buy-in, this SGB, the learners, the educators, the parents, the local companies. But there needs to be buy-in, not just for the woohoo, the first moment, but we need to really take it from the launch to the real work, and then to celebrate your achievements, which is really important. All right. So there's an urgency. You might know there's a real urgency. The fourth industrial revolution is already here. Robotics and coding is already here. Virtual and digital and EGDs and EDPs and programming and IoTs. It's already the 22nd year of the 21st century. It's not even the 21st year of the 21st century. It's now the 22nd year of the 21st century. We need to nurture our next generation of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics leaders. Leaders, not learners, leaders. They need to be leaders in this country. We need to flip this. It requires skills development, real skills development, not second-rate skills development, real skills development. They need to have real knowledge. They need mentoring, and they need to be, again, nurtured, because we would like leaders. We would like to become leaders. All right. So I leave you with this. If it's not now, when is it going to happen? And if it's not you, who's going to do it? All right. And I thank you for your time. Thank you very much.